Assalamualaikum and hello everyone. Today I would like to present my assignment title of an analysis of corporate financial performance, a trend and cooperative study. So for this assignment, I must choose a company, two company. We have the different background, but with the same line of sector. So for this assignment, I had choose the sector of transportation and logistics. So the company that I choose is Post Malaysia Berhad and GD Express Sdn Berhad. So before I proceed to my presentation, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Siti binti Mustafa from class 80-206C. So first, we will proceed to the company background of Post Malaysia Berhad. Post Malaysia Berhad can be traced back to the early of 1080 century with the establishment of postal services, first in the Straits settlements in Penang, Malacca and Singapore, expanding through the rest of Malaya by the early of 20th century. Letters were then conveyed through dispatch rider or special messengers. Instead of postage stamp, fees were collected when letters were handed in at the post office. Letters posted were given a receipt. In 1992, Post Malaysia Berhad were corporatized from the Postal Service Department. In September 2001, Post Malaysia Berhad was listed on the Kuala Lumpur Stock Exchange, now known as Bursa Malaysia Berhad, through a reverse takeover of a filial allied Berhad assuming its listing status. So next is the company background of GD Express Sdn Berhad, or well known as GDEX. GDEX was formed in 1997 to provide express delivery service for both the domestic and international markets. It operates a network of 136 stations comprising 59 branches, 2 affiliate stations, 52 agents, and 23 lodge-in centers throughout East and West Malaysia. The company express delivery service operation is structured along the hub and spoke concept whereby customers' packages are collected by the branches, sent by trucks to a central clearing hub for sorting, and then redirected to their ultimate destination. GDEX is listed on the ACE market of Bursa Malaysia, previously known as Nasdaq of KLSE, through its holding company GD Express Carrier Berhad in May 2005. In August 2013, GDEX transferred its entire issue and paid up share capital and the outstanding 5 years warrant 2011/2016 to the main market of Bursa Securities. So, we will proceed to the analysis outcome. So, for this assignment, I had to make two analysis outcome, which is trend analysis and cross-sectional analysis. So, first, we will proceed to the trend analysis of Post Malaysia Berhad. So, the liquidity, first is the liquidity ratio. So, the liquidity ratio is to measure a firm's ability to meet its current obligation as they came due. The higher ratio suggests a firm has too much capital tied up to its current asset. A lower ratio of suggests a firm may have difficulty in paying its short-term debt. So we will proceed to the ratio under the liquidity ratio, which is current ratio and quick ratio. For the current ratio is to measure the ability of the firm to pay its short-term debt. Higher ratio is good as it shows the firm is able to pay its short-term debt. In 2016, the company had the highest current ratio, which is 1.63 times compared to the year of 2017 and 2018. For the quick ratio is to measure the firm ability to pay its short-term obligation without relying to inventory. The higher the ratio means the company can meet its obligation. In 2016, the company had highest quick ratio, which is 1.61 times compared to the year of 2017 and 2018. Next, we will proceed to the next second ratio, which is activity ratio. Under the activity ratio, there is average collection period and total asset turnover. So for the activity ratio is to measure how effective firm is managing its asset and whether or not the level of those assets is properly related to the level of operation as measured by sales. So for the average collection period, the average collection period is to determine the average length of time taken by firm to collect its debts or for credit sales. The lower the period is the better. In 2016, company had the lowest average collection period, which are 38 days compared to the year of 2017 and 2018. So for the total asset turnover is to measure the firm's ability to manage all of its resources to generate sales. The higher is better. In 2016, the company had the highest total asset turnover, which is 0.92 times compared to the year of 2017 and 2018. For the third ratio is the leverage ratio. Under the leverage ratio, we have two types of ratio, which is debt ratio and debt to equity ratio. Okay, first is for the leverage ratio is the extent to which a firm is using debt financing and the degree of safety that the firm provides to the creditor. So for the debt ratio is an indicator to indicate the amount of debt in financial structure. The higher the percentage of the debt ratio, the higher the risk. So the lowest debt ratio was preferred. In 2016, the company had the lowest of debt ratio, which is 40.30% compared to 2017 and 2018. Okay, for the debt to the equity ratio is to measure amount of debt being utilized relative to the capital provided by owner. The lower the amount is better. In 2017, the company had the lowest debt to equity ratio, which is 0.12 compared to 2016 and 2018. For the last ratio is profitability ratio. Profitability ratio is to measure the effectiveness of the company in producing profit. So under the profitability ratio, there is two ratio, which is operating profit margin and net profit margin that I choose. So operating profit margin is used to identify the profit earned by a firm after deducting all of the costs and expenses except interest and tax. The higher ratio is preferable as it shows the firm is incurring lower operation expenses. In 2017, the company had the highest operating profit margin, which is 6.31% compared to 2016 and 2018. So next is for the net profit margin. Net profit margin is used to show the ability of the firm to generate the net income from its sales after deducting all expenses, including interest and taxes. Higher net profit margin is preferable as the firm is able to control low operating expenses and good pricing strategy. In 2017, company had the highest net profit margin, which is 4.03% compared to 2016 and 2018. So now we will proceed to the trend analysis for the company of GD Express Sdn Bhd. First, we will proceed to liquidity ratio. For the current ratio, in 2016, the company had the highest current ratio, which is 14.61 times highest compared to the year of 2017 and 2018. But for quick ratio, in 2016 also, the company had highest quick ratio, which is 14.21 times compared to the year of 2017 and 2018. Next is the activity ratio. For average collection period, in 2018, company had the lowest average collection period, which are 63 days compared to the year of 2016 and 2017. And for the total asset turnover, in 2018, the company have the highest total asset turnover, which is 0.57 times compared to the years of 2016 and 2017. Third is the leverage ratio. For the first is debt ratio. So in 2017, the company had the lowest of debt ratio, which is 10.85% compared to 2016 and 2018. Second is debt to equity ratio. The lower amount is better for debt to equity ratio. So in 2016 and 2017, the company had the lowest debt to equity ratio, which is 0.07% compared to 2018. Lastly is for the profitability ratio. So we proceed to the operating profit margin. In 2016, the company had the highest operating profit margin, which is 18.29% compared to 2017 and 2018. And next is net profit margin. For net profit margin in 2016, the company had the highest net profit margin, which is 15.67% compared to 2017 and 2018. Now, we will proceed to the cross-sectional analysis that I had done. So I had to compare the Post Malaysia Berhad and GD Express Senior Berhad of between their financial statement for the most current year. So I choose 2018. So we will proceed to the first, which is liquidity ratio. For first is the current ratio. GD Express has the highest current ratio, which is 10.16 times compared to Post Malaysia Berhad for current ratio. And for quick ratio, GD Express and Berhad also have the highest quick ratio, which is 9.96 times compared to the year of Post Malaysia Berhad. So next is activity ratio. So for the average collection period, Post Malaysia Berhad has collected its debt for credit sales. So Post Malaysia Berhad has the lowest average collection period, which is 41 days compared to GD Express dan Berhad. For total asset turnover, Post Malaysia Berhad has the highest total asset turnover, which is 0.73 times compared to GD Express dan Berhad. The third one is leverage ratio. First is, so we proceed to the debt ratio. So the lowest debt ratio was preferred. So GD Express has the lowest of debt ratio, which is 13.2% compared to Post Malaysia Berhad. Next is debt to equity ratio. GD Express dan Berhad has the lowest debt to equity ratio, which is 0.09 times compared to Post Malaysia Berhad. Okay, for the last one is profitability ratio. So for the operating profit margin, GD Express dan Berhad has the highest operating profit margin, which is 15.23% compared to Post Malaysia Berhad. So last is net profit margin. For net profit margin, GD Express dan Berhad has the highest net profit margin, which is 8.06% compared to Post Malaysia Berhad. So now we proceed to the conclusion. Based on the ratio analysis that had been done, I can conclude that the financial condition of GD Express dan Berhad was more in good condition compared with Post Malaysia Berhad. It can be proven through the comparison of the ratio analysis that consists 4 categories of ratio, which are liquidity ratio, activity ratio, leverage ratio, and profitability ratio. From all 4 categories, GD Express dan Berhad had performed of 3 better ratio than Post Malaysia Berhad. First is liquidity ratio. The purpose of liquidity ratio is to measure a firm's ability to meet its current obligation as they can do. So the higher ratio was better for the liquidity ratio. For both current ratio and core ratio and the liquidity ratio, GD Express Berhad was having the higher ratio compared to Post Malaysia Berhad. It shows that they can meet their short-term obligation. Second is leverage ratio. Leverage ratio is the extent to which a firm is using debt financing and the degree of safety that the firm provides to the creditor. The lower ratio is better for the leverage ratio. Both of debt ratio and debt to equity ratio and the leverage ratio, GD Express Sdn Bhd had the lowest ratio compared to post-Malaysia Berhad. It shows that the company used less debt and high equity in their business. The amount of the debt in their financial structure is low compared to post-Malaysia Berhad. The last ratio that proved that GD Express Sdn Bhd had the best financial condition than post-Malaysia Berhad is profitability ratio. The purpose of profitability ratio is to measure the effectiveness of the company in producing profit. The higher ratio is better for the profitability ratio. Both of operating profit margin and net profit margin, GDS Personnel Berhad, have the higher ratio compared to Post-Malaysia Berhad. It shows that the company had the ability to control the cost that is listed as the except interest and taxes. It also shows that the company had the ability to generate the net income from its sales after deducting all expenses including interest and taxes. So we will proceed to the last point, which is the recommendation. There are two recommendations that I want to state regarding the activity ratio of the GDS Personnel Bahar. GDS GDS Personnel Bahar has the lowest ratio of the total asset turnover. It shows that the company is not good in making sales. The effectiveness of the firm to manage all of its resources to generate sales is low compared to Post Malaysia Berhad. So the company need to plan a proper method to generate its sales by using all of the resources available to ensure the company financial status to be more granted. Second, the average collection period of GD Express Berhad was high compared to Post Malaysia Berhad. It shows that the length of time taken by the company to collect its debt for debit sales was high. The length of the time taken to collect the debt must be reduced to ensure the company did not face the losses. The company can make the plan or the agreement for the debtor to pay the debt at the lowest period of time. So that's all for my presentation. Thank you for listening.